$30 million a year. Jane Slater of the NFL Network came out saying Dak wants to be the highest paid play caller in the league and get a contract worth $40 million a year. Doesn't stop there. Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio said that report is, quote, all caps false, and Dak does not want $40 million a year. On top of all that, last week, Stephen Jones said he would be willing to let Dak play out the final year of his contract. We're joined now by FS1 NFL analyst Eric Mangini. Eric.
What's up?
Good morning.
Good to have you again today. A lot of fun yesterday, especially when you went after Rob.
He always goes after me.
The inconsistent Rob Parker.
Inconsistent Rob Parker. Hashtag that, baby.
Inconsistent
Should
Rob
the
Parker.
Cowboys just let Dak play out the rest of his contract?
If they could, that would be an ideal situation. If you look at the 2-year deal, or the amount of money they'd have to pay over the next 2 years, because they could play his current contract and then franchise him next year. And the franchise number this year is somewhere around $25 million for a quarterback. So let's say it goes up $4 million or even $5 million. You get to a $32 million number for 2 years where he has to go out and consistently perform. Now, it could cost you a ton on the back end, just like we've seen that play out with Joe Flacco and with Kirk Cousins. But you get 2 years at real value. You're not putting out the cash this year, which allows you to do some other things, which obviously they have some other things they need to take care of. And there's no better situation than a player who's in his contract year, because those guys are the hungriest, and that usually translates into really positive things from a play perspective.
You mentioned Cousins. Mm-hmm. What did you read into that when, okay, they drafted him, they saw every one of his snaps, yet they refused to sign him to a deal? They franchised him, right, twice, and then eventually he wound up going to the Vikings. Was it because inside that building they didn't believe in him? They didn't think he was really a franchise quarterback, despite the numbers?
It was absolutely that. It was absolutely that situation where they didn't know if, when the games were tight in the fourth quarter, whether he could be that guy. They didn't know that in the playoffs or in those big moments, whether he could be that guy. And the numbers that he had were outstanding. And if you looked at that as a separate entity, you'd say, of course, this makes total sense. But if you're in the building, and there's the other component of what type of leader is he, what type of relationship does he have with everybody else? Does he make players around him better? Is he a force multiplier? All those things go into the equation when you're trying to sign someone or decide to sign someone for money that's really franchise-changing money.
Can I just add one other thing? And in the situation of Dak, is that why they're hesitant? If he was really that franchise quarterback, they've won 2 of the last 3 NFC East, right? They've won a playoff game with Dak. All these things have piled up. He has as many wins as Tom Brady the last 3 years as a quarterback. Why wouldn't they just say, he's our franchise quarterback, and let's just sign him? We got our guy. Or is there question marks still in the organization? That's why he's not signed.
Well, it's a little unfair that we're sitting here saying they're not saying he's their franchise quarterback. Their offer now, if it is as we understand it to be, still puts him in the top 5 or number 6. That's a significant offer. So maybe you don't become number 1 overall, but he's got to have some perspective as well. And typically a deal can be structured in a way where if you continue to perform at a high level, you get compensated more as the deal goes on. There's accelerators that you can put into. There's a lot of things that you can put into deals that allow you to be compensated based on your performance, but the player has to agree to those as well. So there is a significant deal on the table where the Cowboys are saying, you are a quarterback of the future, you are a franchise quarterback. Is it as much as they want? No, but it doesn't mean they haven't made that commitment or that statement.
Eric, let me add this. Like, we keep talking about the idea of, oh, Dak could blow up and have an awesome year. Well, the opposite could be true. Jason Garrett, in final year of his deal, Ezekiel Elliott holding out. We got some questions about the defensive guys, stars coming off an injury. What if Dak doesn't perform well? He's an average quarterback, and they will go 7-9 and miss the playoffs. Then what? What happens to Dak?
Well, are you talking about, do they already have a deal in place?
No, they let him play it out. They let him play it out.
If you let him play it out, then you go into that, you get to the end of the year and you decide whether or not you want to franchise him. And probably going to franchise him based on his body of work, but you're also going to feel really good about the fact that you didn't sign him to a long-term deal, There's real upside to that, and there's real downside to that. It just depends on what you think is going to happen moving forward. And if you don't believe that he's going to be the guy, then you take the Washington Redskins model and you franchise him, and then you potentially franchise him again, and eventually you let him go. If you think that he's going to be the guy, it's better to sign the deal right now, because these deals just get infinitely more expensive every time a new quarterback signs.
And to that point, this is why I say you sign Dak Prescott right now, because the numbers for a quarterback, it's going to go up. And if he does have that year that I believe he can and is capable of having, which will put him in the top 12 of elite quarterbacks in our league, then you're going to have to eventually pay him that money. Now, if you pay him now, you get him at the 30, the 31, 32, whatever that number is, but you understand and you already know the value that he provides to your team and your organization, the rapport that he has with the guys in that locker room, the respect that he's already garnished. You know that guy. You already have seen him prove that he is our guy, because Jerry has said it. Steve has said it. Like, these guys, that they've already said Dak is our guy. We want him. They have offered him a significant contract already that he hasn't agreed to.
But not the contract that most quarterbacks. Every time a quarterback signs, it's usually up. The Dak is the one that's offering less money.
That's false.
Most of the time it is.
Because that's false. Nick Foles, we saw Nick Foles, what he's done, and he didn't go down to Jacksonville.
Nick Foles is an old quarterback who's been there, done that.
Wait, Dak Prescott's definitely better than Nick Foles?
No, but he's a younger guy with more upside. We know what Nick Foles is, and he's already been in the league for 10 years.
My point that I'm making is you have the potential that Dak Prescott is going to be something special. He's already proven that he can win games. He's already proven that he can win in the playoff. Now you add a Randall Cobb, an Amari Cooper, and you give him a Jason Witten in the locker room and on the sideline as a tight end, as a safety valve, and Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. You have something special, and that's what they're banking on. Look, we don't want to start from scratch. Why would we start from scratch when we already have something really special? We just know we're going to have to pay something for it. Why not pay now versus allowing them to have then leverage if he was to have a great year? Now that number goes up.
Because you have doubts. There's some doubts.
And then, look, in sports, there's often the thought process of don't tell me you love me. Show me you love me, and you want to be able to see that commitment. And yeah, they have said he's our guy, but in sports, someone's your guy until they're not your guy, or till there's a new guy that's your guy, and that's just the way it works. All that being said, every contract doesn't go up. Le'Veon Bell's contract.
I'm talking about quarterbacks.
Didn't reset the market. I understand, but I'm just saying every contract doesn't go up. The market kind of gets set, and sometimes it gets adjusted upward. Typically, it gets adjusted upward. Sometimes it goes the other way. Now, all that being said, you still have to look at it from a business perspective. If you feel like his value is in between Carson Wentz and who's behind him, and Matt Ryan, if you feel that that's what it is, then from a organizational standpoint, that's what you're going to fight to get. And you've got to find some middle ground between, what the player thinks and what the organization
Eric, let me ask you this. You mentioned Carson Wentz yesterday a lot in relation to Prescott, maybe because they're in the same division. But I noticed Dak Prescott took 56 sacks last season, second worst in the league. That's behind his renowned offensive line. I just wonder, do you really think at this stage in his career, Dak is progressing toward a Wentz-like career? Wentz's trajectory,
what is a Wentz-like career?
Well, he's been in the MVP discussion twice,
Okay, that's fantastic. He's missed a bunch of games.
He has missed a bunch of games.
When you look at, if I was Dak Prescott, I would be arguing hard for the Wentz-like discussion because Dak Prescott's numbers are better than his in almost every category. Well, he's got a better record head-to-head. He's got a better record in division. He's won playoff games. He's got a better completion percentage.
Wentz has played better than him.
Whoa, hold on.
That,
He's played more games and been more durable. Has Wentz won a playoff
Wow.
game?
See,
Well,
this
wait a
is where I
minute.
wanted
But
him
I'm-
to go.
but I'm
This
just
is
saying-
good. These are very good points. Now,
If
look
you-
at
wait, we
Carson
just said
Wentz's
this.
running back. Look at his running back. He doesn't have Ezekiel Elliott. He's not handing off to an all-pro. He's handing off to Josh Adams. These kind of like role players who have like 600 yards rushing. And Carson Wentz's numbers, according to DVOA, the Football Outsiders quarterback stat, he's a top 15 quarterback in the league. Dak, 26th
Well,
last
look,
year.
I mean, I'm sure DVOA is the be-all, end-all on
Well, it's
how we're going
better
to